Yeah, the dingle hopper. Yeah.
Are you tired of being cold and not being a mermaid?
Yes?
Well, I have the perfect project that will take you from boring old human to a wonderful mermaid.
Whoa! Thanks, cool narrator!
No problem.
Now I can be just like Ariel.
Hey, you watching this, do you want to learn how to make this awesome mermaid tail blanket for yourself? Then keep on watching. Whatever color you want the body of the tail to be, plus matching thread. Some different colored fleece for the bottom of the tail. Some shiny fabric to cover that olive fleece. Some trusty pin and chalk. Optional, if you don't want the tail to be a pocket for your feet, you can definitely just stuff it with stuffing. Here I just have a pillow for this example because I didn't really have stuffing, but you can really repurpose a pillow if you don't want it anymore to create the stuffing if you really like. To begin, you can lay down and kind of just trace around yourself. Or you can take something shaped like a mermaid tail. In this case, I'm just using this other blanket that I had made beforehand, and I'm just going to trace around that. When doing this step, either method, always make sure to leave a little extra room around the edges for your seam allowances. To make it a little bit easier and to sandwich the fabric a little bit better, I'm just going to pin around the edges before cutting to hold the two layers together while I cut. Next, you just want to cut around the shape that you have with your seam allowance and just kind of take your time and go around and just make sure both sides are even. You can fold it in half like I am here, making sure both sides are going to be even. Once you kind of get to the bottom, you can kind of shape it however you want. There are a lot of different styles of mermaid tail, so I just went with the most basic one, but you can find a chart like this one to kind of guide you into what tail you want.
Make sure you buy enough fabric.
You can kind of do like I am here, where I'm just kind of weighing the shape that I want. I'm making sure they're even. I kind of go back and forth between the tail I had previously made to kind of make sure that the proportions are right. You can make a pattern for this part. I just chose to freehand it. It's really up to you and what you feel more comfortable with. Freehanding it didn't turn out exactly symmetrical, but it still looks really cute. So do whichever method you find easier. Just as before, I pinned the fabric and now I'm just cutting it and trying to make it as even as I can. This is where I realized that they weren't going to be exactly even, but nobody's tail is perfect. This next step is definitely optional, but I just took this shiny kind of fabric and I'm going to put that on top of the olive green just to get the color that I want and the effect that I want. Here I decided to do the most dumb thing, which was not to pin the fabric or to chalk the outline out. I still left enough room for seam allowances, which is very important, but I didn't really pin this, and I had also not gotten enough fabric for this part, so I'm going to be taking out 4 pieces to create the both sides. It would have been so much easier if I had gotten more fabric. That way I could have just done like the previous step, which is just outline the tail that I had already made and then just cut around that. But no, I decided to make things difficult for myself. So please don't be me, get enough fabric, because it was just tedious doing it this way, and I would definitely not do it again this way. Little reminder that this step is optional. You can just have a two-tone tail, the body and the bottom of the tail being different colors, or maybe even one solid color, or like the tail that you saw me using prior where I used a printed fabric for the body and then the tail is just one solid fleece. I just thought this would kind of look cool. Here, I'm just going to be pinning the panels that I just cut out to the main part of the tail. Once I pinned everything down, I was ready to move on to sewing. Here, I'm just going to be sewing around the edges to connect the shiny fabric. Sorry, I don't really know the name of this fabric, so I'm just going to call it shiny fabric. And taking that to the felt and uniting them together to create one piece. If you are a beginner in sewing and this kind of looks intimidating, it can be a bit challenging, especially right here around like the little corners. I had to cut it off and then turn it around and everything. But definitely if you're a beginning sewer, don't be discouraged by this. This is actually a very simple project that you can work on. Just make sure to take your time with it and don't rush through this part. It definitely took me a little bit because I really wanted to get close to the edge and get that curve nice and crisp. After that struggle with the bottom part of the tail, we're going to move on to the body of the tail, and all you're going to do is going to sew down the edges. I left a decent amount of seam allowance just because I wasn't sure if I wanted it a little bit tighter or a little bit looser. I ended up leaving it pretty loose, but this part is definitely up to personal preference. Now back to the bottom of the tail, we are going to pin both panels together and we're gonna sew around them to make like a pouch kind of situation. So my logic here is I created this so you can put your feet in the tail part, and it turned out pretty cool. Once you finish that, you can go through and flip it. After this, you can go ahead and just sew the bottom of the tail to the body, wrong sides together. One of the final things is you're going to take in a piece of elastic and wrap it around your waist and kind of measure that out, and then I'm just going to sew it into a tube. Once you have that tube, you can just put it within the waistband area and kind of fold down the fabric and sew around, and you're done after that.